Hi, my name is Adina Abergel, and I'm here today to discuss the 6 historical milestones and the main health impacts this has negatively had on our civilization. So first, I just want to address our main goal with autoimmune disease, which is to reduce inflammation in the body. We want to alleviate or reduce symptoms through healthy, nutrient-dense whole foods. Research shows that highly processed foods and foods that contain unhealthy fats, added sugar, and salt can make symptoms worse. Higher intake of sugar leads to higher levels of inflammatory immune cells. I want to show how our movement as a society away from how our ancestors lived and ate contribute to the degradation of our health. By understanding this, we can make changes to get back to our roots of how to live and thrive by eating closer to the way our ancestors ate, which is a properly prepared, nutrient-dense whole foods diet. So there is good news, but first let's begin with how we first ate. We were hunters and gatherers, which meant we used our skills and relied on hunting, fishing, foraging for fruits and vegetables. There was no processed foods or farms to get our foods from. So how did we move so far away from the nutrient-dense whole foods diet? Well, this brings us to the first revolution. Let me go ahead and share my screen. The first revolution was the agricultural revolution, which happened about 12,000 years ago. The biggest shift that happened was the growing and raising of food in one place. This had a lot of benefits, but it also contributed to loss of nutrients and soil degradation, which then led to a loss of nutrients in our foods. A loss of nutrients in our diet then led to rapid bone loss, for example. Then we had the introduction of refined sugar. This revolution occurred in the 1600s. This was the introduction of processed foods. Humans went from eating a few pounds of sugar per person in a year to about 150 to 200 pounds annually. This was a huge leap and was a major contributor to chronic disease and inflammation. Next, we have the Industrial Revolution that occurred in the 1800s. This was the knockout of all revolutions. This affected us in ways other than just food and how we ate, but also how we lived, worked, and used our bodies. Machines began replacing the physical work of human and animals, which greatly increased product output. The focus became on obtaining quicker, more processed food instead of gathering and consuming nutrient-dense whole foods of our ancestors. This brings us to the next revolution, which is the rise of big food, like Kellogg's, Coca-Cola, Nestle. Initially, they may have had good intentions and the motivation to help feed the world, although the end result was a dramatic increase in processed foods that made their way into modern diets. Now these companies are more motivated by generating profits than by nourishing the world. These companies use a combination of fat, sugar, and salt to find what is called the bliss point, so that consumers get hooked. These companies have made vast fortunes by selling low-cost, processed, and highly palatable foods. They now have tremendous influence over policy and research. Being aware of the shady tactics these companies use to increase their profits gives us as a consumer more power because we are the ones making the purchasing decisions. This brings us to the chemical revolution that started in the 1940s during World War II. This, some say, had the most effect on our modern day food supply. Most foods bought or made were packaged and contained preservatives, which was initially meant to be military inventions, became everyday staples to the modern diet. For example, this included the introduction of margarine, which is a highly processed food meant to mimic butter. The bottom line is food was cheap, easy, and quick. This is a far cry from the nutrient-dense whole foods our ancestors ate. The last and current revolution is digital, which we now call the information age. This included a rapid shift from mechanical to digital electronics, computing, and communications. This has brought many advantages in the area of health and nutrition, as well as many other areas in our life. However, it has also greatly impacted the way we eat, move, sleep, and work in ways that may not be so healthy. One downfall is a prolonged sitting in front of computers and screens, which has dramatically decreased our physical movement. Regular movement is a basic requirement for many aspects of good health. For example, sitting for long periods of time negatively affect our posture, which directly affects how we digest our food and absorb our nutrients. These are nutrients we need to thrive. Our genes are the same as our ancestors. Our bodies don't know how to biologically process these fake foods. Any changes we can make by going back to the basics of how our ancestors ate can help reduce inflammation in the body. By getting familiar with where our food comes from and being aware of the process can help tap into our body's innate wisdom to achieve health by eating real whole foods. I think the goal for most people is to be healthy physically and mentally in order to live to our full potential and have the energy and time for the people we love most. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the 6 historical milestones.